Welcome back to the Big Burger Podcast. Here today, we're going to be discussing Big Ten win totals. How you doing, Eddie?
All good, Richie. Excited to do these Big Ten win totals. Should we start off with Oregon or USC or maybe um Virginia Tech or Miami? Where should we start off today? Oh no, wait, that's in 3 years from
That's
now.
yeah, that's in like 2 years.
Okay. Oh, okay. I guess we're in normalcy times right now.
Right. We're still, regional conferences, like, for, for a little bit, for a little while longer.
So things make sense for a little
Kind
while
of.
longer. But the Big Ten, we're excited to do this episode. Very excited. The
Yep.
Big Ten, very strong conference. They have a few teams that could honestly compete for a national championship. And we're gonna go over all those teams and a few other fun ones and a few other not so fun ones. So we'll go over the whole conference.
Absolutely. So to start it off, we'll just get right into it. So Michigan is the leader. Actually, Michigan and Ohio State, because they're both at 10.5. But
Yeah, that's what I
I
thought.
feel like I want to start with Michigan.
Let's start with Michigan, the reigning Big Ten, the two-time reigning Big Ten
Exactly,
champion.
exactly. So Michigan, they are over at minus 120 and under at plus 100. And as I just said, the total is at 10.5.
This is 10 and a half.
Yeah. I think this one's easy, by the way.
I think this
I'm
is easy too. I think a lot of these are gonna be easy,
why? Why do you
but
think?
well, for 10 and a half, just to hit the over, they just have to beat either Penn State or Ohio State. So for those that are not 100% caught up with
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
everything,
whoa, 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 whoa. At Nebraska.
oh
Matt
goodness,
Rule, come on.
that
Don't
actually
underestimate Matt Rule.
that actually changes so much of this. Matt Rule with the Cornhuskers. Maybe if they do a Twitter poll, maybe we'll see who
Maybe they'd
wins.
actually win.
You know, I heard the Twitter polls are way more influential than the on-field results.
Of course.
But but
Bro,
no,
but,
if
but seriously, wait, seriously. I remember, I think a couple years ago, I think when Nebraska went 3-9, the best 3-9 team of all time, they hung with Michigan. They lost by like 3 points or something.
they
I remember
did,
that game.
they did, and it was the first year in this decade that Michigan won the Big Ten. The year that they did the revenge on Ohio State. But if we're looking at this schedule, very honestly, the non-con is such a waste of time. It's they're gonna breeze through that, and then you're right. They do play at Nebraska, but Michigan right now with the coaching staff that they have and the continuity, the talent acquisition, and the returning production, and just being the top dogs, they just have to be either Ohio State or Penn State to make the over, and then they have to lose, just two games to make the under. I think, as you said, I think it's an easy one for me. I'd take the over.
Yeah, yeah. So I completely agree with everything you just said. I think this is Jim Harbaugh's best Michigan team that he's ever had.
Mhm.
Their returning production is amazing. It's 81%. So I think this is an easy over. This is the best team that they've had in a long, long time, and they could seriously win the whole thing. They could win a national championship, not just the Big Ten, but they can win the whole
Mhm.
thing.
They are my they are my I want to pick them to win the whole thing just because I don't think Georgia wins three in a row. I think
Mhm.
Michigan is right there on the cusp. I
Yeah.
think if they had just tightened up a little bit more versus TCU and played a little bit more serious, didn't play down to their opponent, I
Right.
think they would have beaten them. And then I don't not necessarily they would have beaten Georgia, but they would have given them a run for their money. They beat Ohio State. Ohio State was up there with Michigan with Georgia. And I know there's a
Mhm.
lot of matchups and here and there, but Michigan's tough. So, but you're right.
And their
This is
schedule's easy. So, like,
th-
this is not even.
this is their best team. The schedule is very easy. One thing I want to see if we're on the same page. Do you see a game here that, although it's not Penn State or Ohio State, could be difficult or a trap? You would say maybe a trap
Sure.
game.
I see a couple. I see at Minnesota and I see at Michigan State.
You
I
don't see
just
another one? The one I'm seeing?
Oh, Purdue, the spoiler makers.
Well, Purdue is a
Oh, at
spoiler
Maryland? At
at
Maryland?
Maryland. That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking about.
Yeah, yeah, because it's sandwiched between Penn State and Ohio State. Fair, fair.
It's sandwiched between the two toughest games they have. Maryland isn't even
They're not bad.
terrible. They're just like average Big Ten school. You know, that could be, if
It
Michigan is
could.
lazy,
Definitely right, for sure, for sure. Definitely seen weirder things. I just think Michigan is that good.
I agree. I
Like they're just
agree.
I think
This
they're
is a
elite.
top two team.
Yeah.
Top two team. If Georgia didn't just win back to back, if this team could even be
Yeah, yeah.
argued
They're,
as number
they're my
one.
second favorite team to win the whole thing right now, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's yeah.
All right.
So we'll move on
So
from there. The over.
yeah.
I'm not. I'm confident enough. I'm not gonna tell you to bet on it and make free money, audience, but it's a pretty good bet.
Yeah.
Especially considering the last few years. I think Ohio State and Michigan collectively will have one loss at most, meeting each other next year.
Speaking of Ohio State, they are at the same win total, 10.5. They're evenly split, minus 105, minus 115, basically evenly split. What do you think about the Buckeyes?
The Buckeyes have a much. Actually, I take that back. It's not much more interesting. It's just a little bit more interesting of a schedule. And that's basically because they play two opponents that Michigan doesn't play, and one of them is in the non-con. Notre Dame for the non-con, and then Wisconsin at Wisconsin towards the end of October. So it makes the schedule more interesting, but I don't think it
Mhm.
changes much. I think that at the end of the day, the two hardest teams that Ohio State is going to play, and Michigan as well, are Michigan or Ohio State respectively, and Penn State. But those are two more trickier opponents:
Mm,
Wisconsin at Wisconsin and Notre Dame.
yeah. Yeah. In terms of the over under, I would their schedule is a little interesting, and I don't think they're quite as strong as Michigan right now. They may have recruited slightly better, but I think Harbaugh at this point is a better coach than Ryan Day because Ryan Day just hasn't proved it to me yet. So I can totally see a slip up or two along
Mhm.
the way. At Notre Dame is interesting. They'll probably win that one. At Wisconsin is interesting. They'll probably win that one, but I can see them splitting it. That's a real possibility.
Yeah,
And then of course Michigan at the end. I would have to lean under, but I don't feel great about it.
I would, I would, I would agree there simply because, like as we were both saying, there's just more games to lose.
Yeah.
But I still think Ohio State beats all of them. But if we're gonna bet for real, and it would be the under, especially considering that although, like, of course, Ohio State is just like Georgia or Alabama, that one guy goes down, the next guy up is amazing, 5-star, 4-star guy, amazing. But at the end of the day, you are losing Heisman contender CJ Stroud to the NFL draft.
Hmm.
You are losing some other key pieces for the offense. And I know like the wide receivers are always super good, but it might be shaky in the beginning. I mean, who knows? The who knows how it's gonna play out. But of course, if you
And every once in like in recent years, like Ohio State has lost to like random teams that they
mhm,
aren't supposed to lose to. Like I remember
Purdue
Purdue a couple years ago. So I don't think it's totally crazy that they drop a game that they're not supposed to.
and when a team plays tough versus Ohio State, some people on the internet accuse Ohio State of being soft. I'm not gonna say they're soft, but when a tough team plays them, Michigan, maybe a Purdue, maybe an SEC team or whatever, maybe even their future in conference opponent, like the Oregon Ducks. When a tough team plays Ohio State, they give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
This isn't like this isn't like the I don't think Ryan Day's Ohio States are near are as good as the Urban Meyer Ohio States.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
For now, it could
for
change.
now. But we'll see how this goes. Much more interesting schedule though for the Buckeyes. They much more.
Yeah, I seriously doubt that both Michigan and Ohio State will meet again at 11-0. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I seriously doubt that.
Would you agree with me that one of them will like collectively they will have a loss?
At like before that game,
Like how many losses collectively do you think they'll have by the time that game is played?
so before the game,
Yeah, I guess yeah, before the game. Yeah.
uh, I would give Ohio State a solid one loss, and together a solid one loss.
One
So,
loss. Yeah. I don't see two.
yeah, I don't really see two, which is crazy, but yeah,
Like collectively I don't see two. I don't see 1-1. I, I mean it's possible, but that just means the next team we're going to talk about is really putting in the work. So we'll see. But but yeah, I agree.
so the next team, of course, is Penn State, and they're getting a ton of hype. They're at 9.5, and they are juiced to the over. They're at minus 140 over and then plus 120 under.
Why
So
don't you speak a little bit about why they're so juiced up, why they're getting a lot of hype in
sure.
terms of, returning production and stuff like that.
Well, the returning production is solid. It's 65%. It's nothing crazy. Obviously, they recruit super well. According to my algorithm here, they should get 10 wins. So that would put them at slightly over. I feel like, other than good returning production and just like consistency and Franklin getting a huge extension, he's going to be there for a while and he's obviously a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Manny Diaz with a solid defense. They
Manny Diaz,
they're he's a good defense coordinator. He was a good defense coordinator at Miami,
he
just a
was.
good head coach. They are definitely primed for a big year. Can they? The big question, obviously, is can they beat the big two? Can they beat either Ohio State or Michigan or
Mm-hmm.
both or neither? That's the question.
For a
But
season. Mhm.
yeah, with all that being said, at 9.5, I am also high on Penn State and I will go over because even if they do lose those two teams, the rest of their schedule isn't too scary. And, they could lose those two and still go 10-2 and go over.
They can. Richie and I saw the Rose Bowl together last year, and Penn
Mhm.
State just beat Utah.
Right.
Like absolutely just beat them.
Beat them down.
They were dominant, they were tough, and we mentioned in episodes prior that there's maybe a team or two, Oregon State comes to mind, maybe another team here and there, that their bowl game win made the hype for next year so much bigger.
Yeah,
As
fair.
people, you know, they say that the bowl game is like a slight preview of what's to come next year. Some people say that.
Hmm.
With Penn State, it's no different. However, the difference is that their bowl game was the Rose Bowl. It was against the Pac-12 champions. Utah was a good team, so they did play really well. Of all the teams they played last year, they played Auburn, and I know Auburn was down. They played Utah, they played Michigan, Ohio State, and the rest of the Big Ten. They only lost to Ohio State and Michigan, and they played with Ohio State like they were competing up until the last
Mm.
couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So they're good. They're good. If that quarterback pans out, Drew Alar, if that guy pans out well, I could see. I for sure see the over as well. 9.5. Give me the over for sure. Yeah.
It's total agreement so far with the top three schools in the Big Ten.
Who's next? Is it Illinois?
No, no, not Illinois. It is the Wisconsin Badgers under new
Oh,
leadership.
okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you did mention it earlier in the podcast. And this is an interesting team for the first time in well, since Wisconsin was good, like just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Finally the Big Ten West is interesting again just because of this one team. Literally, it
Hmm.
just takes one team to make it interesting because none of them are interesting, except when Wisconsin is actually kind of decent.
Right. Right. I
Damn,
think
Nebraska should be running this division.
this
Should
division is
be.
so goofy. I just think they're all like kind of the same team. They're like the most
They're all the
uniform
same team. They're
division in college football.
they're all the same team, and they all have like the same colors too. Like they all
Nah,
like
they
they
have
all like
some
just bleed
cool.
together.
They all fit for sure.
Yeah.
So their win total's at 8.5. Actually, it's pretty high. Their over is juiced at -145. The under at +125.
So a game. So the non-con, interesting. They have a game that we've already spoken about, the Washington State game at Washington State.
Mhm.
I do think I think I said on the earlier podcast that Wisconsin does win that game.
Yeah,
I do lean Wisconsin. It's a slight lean. I'm not saying they're for sure gonna win or they're gonna blow them out or anything like that, but I do think they win that game. They do have the bye week really early.
yeah. I don't love that.
I don't love that, but of the big three, they only play Ohio State.
That's
And it
huge.
and it's at home. As we said with the Ohio State win totals just a few minutes ago. It makes it more interesting. I do think Ohio State's gonna win that, but maybe an upset. Maybe Luke Fickle, maybe an
Yeah.
upset. What do you think about this?
I love the upset opportunity against Ohio State, and I do really like their schedule because it is not too difficult. I do believe they beat Washington State and they get revenge on the road.
Hmm.
Their away schedule is not too crazy. I think they play, one, two, three, four Big Ten road games, and I think they could at least split them. They're not that Indiana's terrible. Illinois should take a step back this year. And
Hmm.
then Purdue and Minnesota are, kind of the same caliber. So I think they can go 2-2 or 3-1 in that stretch.
I
And
think
at that point, I like the over.
yeah, I agree. The Wisconsin Badgers should represent the Big Ten West better than Nebraska did last year by actually beating Georgia Southern. Maybe they
Right.
could actually put some respect on the Big Ten West name because right now Georgia Southern has no respect for them, all thanks to Nebraska and Scott Frost. But I do like the over here too. I don't love the over though. It
I,
is
I
a
don't love it. I don't.
it's a
I'm not gonna bet it.
brand, new coach, but this is a good coach. This is a very good coach.
Yeah,
One of
for
the few one of the few coaches to make the playoffs.
for sure. I mean, when the second best team in that division is Illinois, I like Wisconsin's chances.
Yeah. Yeah. They I doubt this happens, but there's a chance that they beat everybody in the West schedule.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
chance. I mean,
They can go
but I could
six.
say the same thing about Iowa too. So, or any of those teams in a way.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying because they're all the same thing.
They're all kind of the same thing. I do think in the future, Luke Fickle and Wisconsin will separate themselves again. Back to
I
10
think,
wins.
yeah, I think that's an amazing hire, and I think they have a super bright long-term future.
Very, very good future. All right, let's talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes.
So I was at 8 for their win total, at -145 to the over and +125 to the under. What do
Excuse me.
you think?
So Iowa Hawkeyes, mostly known for their amazing, amazing defense, and also
Right,
known, huh?
right, right.
And also known for their terrible offense. All that culminated last year in an 8-5 record, including winning the Music City Bowl against Kentucky. One of the most entertaining games last year, by the way. I love that game.
That
Like
game was crazy.
the
That game was
like the
awesome.
the defense, the sacks, the the fumbles that they got, the interceptions. They made Kentucky like their
All the
bitch.
punts.
All the punts, like a million punts. I think they scored like I think they had an offensive touchdown and a defense and like one or two defensive touchdowns. It
Yeah.
was an Iowa miracle. But but looking at this season, this is an interesting one. The 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 Hawkeyes do have an interesting schedule. What do you make of it?
They're so like I thought 8 was a little too high just because their returning production isn't too good and their recruiting is whatever, but their schedule is easy. So I'm seriously considering like that over. I'm seriously considering 9. They don't play Ohio State or Michigan.
They don't.
Their hardest game by far is at Penn State. They
Hmm.
have to play at Iowa State, but Iowa State is going through a bunch of stuff. So I don't like. I think they would win that game. They play at Wisconsin and they can lose that and still be really comfortable getting to 8 wins at least. So
Uh,
I'm kind of leaning hard over.
Me too. I'm leaning hard over. This is probably the most talented team from the Big Ten West, especially on defense and special teams. Man, they kill defense and special teams.
Yeah, yeah.
They bring in the quarterback, uh, McNamara from Michigan, the one that beat Ohio State a couple years ago. They there's they I think
Their offense can't get worse. Their
their
offense was
offense can't get
so
worse, and I think it will be
laughably
better.
terrible last year, and they
And,
still won 8 games.
and I think it will be better.
Yeah.
I'm leaning over, and I'll even go and say it. Maybe, and maybe not via regular season, but maybe via regular season. But I think after the bowl game is said and done, and maybe an appearance in the Big Ten championship, I think they will have double-digit wins this season.
Yeah, I think they can go 10-2 in the regular season.
I think, yeah, 10-2 is very possible, and maybe even 11 wins with the bowl game.
Oh, that would be great. But I can see it. I can see it.
I can see it. Their schedule is good enough for them that it helps them, and yeah, their
Yeah.
non-contest is Iowa State, and then two burgers. So we'll see how
Yep.
that goes for them.
Yep. You gotta love a couple of burgers. The next team. So there's a little dip after that. The next highest team is at 7. There's actually a couple.
Hmm.
So Minnesota's at 7 and Maryland is at 7. Which one do you want to go first?
Let's go with Maryland since
Yeah, that one's more interesting.
yeah,
I would think.
former ACC school Maryland.
Just come home, Maryland. Come
Just
back home.
come home, Maryland.
You don't belong in the Big Ten.
You don't belong
Come with
there.
us.
They don't even treat you right. Come on, we'll treat you right over here at
They
the
put you in the
ACC.
hardest division in college football, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah, here we
Put
don't
you
even
there.
have divisions over here. Come on,
Yeah.
we we got rid
It's
of
more
those
fun
just
over
for
here.
you.
Oh,
So Maryland, you said 7 or 7.5.
just 7. Straight up 7.
Well, this is an interesting one because they have to play the three schools that we just mentioned, of course, being the Big Ten East.
Hmm.
They draw at Nebraska from the West.
I don't love that.
I don't love that for them either. And then they have an interesting non-con with Virginia in there.
At
I
home.
think it's at home. Should be, I mean, it's not going to be an interesting game at all, but you know, maybe it is.
It's an ACC game. It's an ACC matchup.
Yeah, it's an ACC game. Oh, now I know why everyone wants to leave the ACC. But looking at this, what stands out here for you?
I do not like their road schedule. I do not like at Michigan State, at Ohio State, and at Nebraska. The other two are whatever, Northwestern or Rutgers. Their road schedule stuff is tough, but their win total is at 7. It's not that high.
It's not that high.
I feel like if they take care, they do have to play Penn State, Michigan, obviously. Let's say they lose to the big three, which they probably will.
Yeah,
They have to win at least, let's see, they have to win at least 2 of those road games, right? That are not the big three. So they
Hmm.
have to either win at Michigan State, at Notre Dame, at Rutgers, at Nebraska. They have to win two of those games. That's very doable against Northwestern and Rutgers. You take care of Illinois at home, and there's seven, and you get Indiana as like your eighth win, maybe. I don't know if my math is right there, but I think you got to win two of those road games that are not the big three.
Yeah, if they had so they have their against the big three, two of those three are at home, right? Yeah. So
You
unfortunately,
think
that
an
like
upset happens? I mean, I don't see that.
as we both agree, they're gonna lose all three of them. I
Yeah,
mean, unfortunately for them, like if I bet they're wishing that they had two of the three away, might as well lose those games and get the other ones at home, as you
right,
were just
right.
saying. This is an interesting one. I had just a flat seven, right? I don't want to go under.
Yeah, me neither.
6-6. I don't think Maryland is a 6-6 team. I think Tagovailoa, what's his first name?
It's Taulia.
Talia
That
Tagovailoa.
sounds like Tua, but Taulia Tagovailoa.
He's actually a really good quarterback. Maryland is okay, not the best team, but he's a good quarterback.
They
Maryland
did,
should be better than most
no.
of these teams from the West. And I don't see them at 6-6. I don't see them at 6-6 at all. To take the over itself, that's a tough one, but I don't want the under. I
Mm,
know that for sure.
yeah, same. I'm gonna agree with you just because it's a tough schedule, but I think they are good enough to avoid losing too many goofy games to get,
Hmm.
under. So
Totally.
the next team is Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Is in the West. Minnesota's at 7. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. Minnesota's like the Baylor of the Big Ten for me for right now. I don't really know what they're gonna be. I don't know how good they're gonna be. I feel like 7 is a good number because they're just gonna be middle of the pack.
I could see that. Last season they went 9-4. They had a very good season last year. They lost a couple of games, some close games, but
Hmm.
they ended up going 9-4, winning their bowl game against Syracuse. So
Nice.
they I they're okay. They're decent, for Big Ten West standards.
Yeah, the returning production is pretty good. The recruiting is not too good, but it's okay.
The problem, one of the problems here is that they play both Michigan and Ohio State.
Hmm.
So those are two auto losses.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see them not even competing with either of them.
They have a tough non-con at North Carolina against Heisman candidate Drake May.
I feel like UNC should win that game.
Should win that game.
Yeah.
That could be three losses just looking at it like that. And then
Yeah.
and then you have the whole Big Ten West, who it's tough. You said seven, right?
7. Yep. I'm gonna go under slightly, because I think 6-6 is better than 8-4. But I can easily see them winning 7, and that would be a push. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go lean under.
I want to lean under, but say the odds again.
So the odds, so it's plus 110 to the over and then minus 130 to the under. So not amazing value on the under, but I just think that 6-6 is so much more likely. Just, in my opinion, obviously.
This is a tough one
It is. It is.
because they have some games that I'm like, okay, they should for sure win that and this and that. And then they have some games that, they should lose, but most of their games are toss-ups. And that's what the Big Ten West is all about.
Exactly. Exactly. So I feel like even if they lose to Ohio State and Michigan, if they split the Big Ten West, that's already 3 losses, right? That they go 3 and
Hmm.
3.
Hmm.
So that already puts them at 5 losses, and they have to play at UNC. There's your
No,
sixth
you're
loss.
right. That's yeah, under as well. Under for me as well. You convinced me.
Hey man, had nothing to do with it. So next team, let's see. We got Illinois at 6.5. Illinois had a great year last year.
The Fighting Illini. Very, very interesting. Very interesting year. They almost beat Michigan.
I know they're bringing back like a filthy defensive line.
Mhm.
Their D line is like basically all NFL dudes.
That's awesome.
But that's what the
They
Big Ten is all about.
they do
Giant
have
linemen.
they do have the non-con at Kansas, which is interesting.
Hmm.
That actually is a really interesting game. Friday, September 8th, 7:30
On a
p.m.
Friday, what the?
Yeah, I am totally watching that game.
I will be
Very
so ready
interesting.
for that game.
We looking at it, they have a late bye week. Late.
Yeah, I don't love that.
I don't love that either. They draw Maryland as well as Indiana. So not too hard from the East.
Hmm. They only get Penn State from the east of the big three.
You said seven. How many games? How many wins?
6.5.
6.5.
And it's evenly split.
Let's say they beat Can. Wait, let's say they go 3-0 in the non-con.
Hmm.
Maybe they could upset. Well, I think they'll beat Indiana.
Hmm.
It's
Okay,
4.
that's four. 4 wins.
I don't think they'll upset Maryland at Maryland. You're gonna
They
have to
could beat
beat
Nebraska.
they could beat Nebraska. At Purdue, I think they'll beat Purdue. And with that, we already have 5 wins.
And then Northwestern, that's an easy win. So there's 6.
Can they just have to beat, and I mean it's tough, at Iowa and then Wisconsin at home, at Maryland,
At Purdue or at Minnesota. I think they win one of those games for sure.
at Purdue, at Minnesota. I don't, you think they win one of the at Purdue, at Minnesota, one of those two?
I think they already have 5, or they already have 6 losses of 6 wins of the ones we're talking about. So if they just need to beat one of at Purdue, at Minnesota, at Iowa, or at Maryland, one of those 4, I think they pull that off.
Yeah, yeah. Are we looking at the over here then?
I mean, but then I can see them, losing to Kansas and then,
They
losing to
could lose to
Nebraska or
Kansas.
something. So
They
like
could,
I
they
don't
very
know.
much could lose to Kansas.
I'm not sure.
And
Hmm.
and Kansas is pretty okay this year.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna
go slightly under. I'm gonna go for them going 6-6 though. I'm not gonna go crazy under. I just think they're gonna go slightly under
so they go
because their
bowling.
returning production isn't that good either. It's only 54%.
Is it all on the D line?
I'm not
Pretty
100% sure.
much.
Probably.
I don't want to agree with you all day, but
This
I
one
will
is tough for me. This one's tough. I'm just barely leaning under.
if I'll say this, if it was Kansas at home, I would go over.
I would feel much better.
But Kansas away, you know, Lawrence might turn up for this game.
Yeah. They really
L-
might. They
They
might.
might turn up for the game. So and I think Kansas will be okay. I think they'll make a bowl game. I or they'll be close to it. I don't think they'll be like the biggest pushover of all time. I'll go the under with you as well,
Okay,
just
cool.
to be on the safe side.
Nice, nice. Moving along. Next team is Nebraska at 6.
Nebraska. This is an interesting one. I'll say off the bat what I think already.
Sure.
Over.
Ooh, damn. They haven't made a bowl in a while, by the way. It's been a
They
few
haven't
years.
they haven't made a bowl in a while, but they only they don't get Ohio State, Michigan, or no, oh sorry, no, they do get Michigan. So They only get Michigan though. They don't get Ohio State or Penn State.
Mhm.
But I think I think Matt Rule is a really good coach. I think he could turn things around over here. I do like the quarterback that they're bringing in from Georgia Tech. I've seen him play. I mean, he's had a couple bad games. I actually seen him play quite a bit, but he's he makes some dumb decisions sometimes, but he's not that bad. He has some talent. I
Mhm.
think Nebraska might be one of the more talented teams of the Big Ten West. I think Matt Rule could like mold that into his own liking, and I don't know. I'm kind of high on them. I could see them upsetting a couple, like a team or two. Maybe
Fair.
maybe at Michigan State, maybe at Wisconsin. I kind of doubt that one, but maybe I something like that. And
Mhm.
then Colorado win, NIU, Northern Illinois win, LA Tech win. Now, something interesting, I will say, as we've said in the past, if you there's always that one critical game very, 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 very early on in the year, like week one, two, or three. If they
Yeah.
beat at Minnesota, then I'm very, very, very confident in the over
Yes, for sure.
because I could see them going 4-0, and then maybe by the time the bye week comes, 5-1.
Yeah.
And then,
I could see that. I think it's pretty optimistic, but I definitely could see it.
you know, so I do like Nebraska.
So I'm gonna have to disagree, but I'll tell you why.
Wow. Okay, so our first disagree. Good. I like Nebraska.
I like Nebraska and I want them to be good. And I like the push. I like 6-6. I think six is fine. But if I had to pick, I would go under. They start off at Minnesota and at Colorado. I'm not saying Colorado is good at all, but maybe first year Nebraska kind of stumbles. They go into Boulder and maybe they drop it. So they could start 0-2, which would be not disastrous because you could see it happening, but not good. Not a great
It
start for Rule.
it would be the most Nebraska thing ever to go 0-2.
Right, to start 0-2. And then at that point, you got to go 6-4 for the rest of your schedule to, at least push. I don't think they're that good. The returning production's not great. It's like in the 50s or something. No, actually, no, it's 68. That's actually pretty good. It's 68, but it's a first year head coach, and you never really know. I'm gonna stay on the safe side. Nebraska, I'm sorry, you gotta have to prove it, kind of have to prove it to me because you haven't been to a bowl in a while. So I'm gonna go under.
I think they'll be very improved over last year. I think we're cutting them a little bit of we're they're a little bit of a meme, but you know, they had like what 3 or 4 games in which Scott Frost had to coach it, you know.
Right, right.
And they even beat Iowa last year at the end.
Yeah, but Iowa, I mean,
They lost by 1 to Wisconsin, lost by 7 to Minnesota. They lost by only 6 points to the Big Ten West champions, Purdue Boilermakers. But I don't know. I'm high on them. I think this is our first disagree, and it's a big disagree. I mark my words. Nebraska is back.
back to a
Cornhusker
bowl.
Nation is back. 10 more years of sold out stadiums. Never
Yes,
losing another Twitter poll ever again.
of course. So next on the list, finally going to, what Vegas thinks are non-bowlers.
Non-bowlers.
And there's a bunch of teams at 5.5.
Ugh.
Michigan State and Purdue. So just two. Which one do you which one do you want to talk about first?
Um, let's go Michigan State. I think they have a way cooler schedule. I think okay, so right off the bat, they play two cupcakes, Central Michigan and Richmond Spiders. I don't really know who that is, but they play them, they win. Okay, fine. Then they play Washington. Washington will very likely win that game. Chance they lose, but they will likely win that game. And then Maryland at Iowa, and then they have to play later on Michigan, at Ohio State, Penn State. This is a tough schedule.
It is.
That Michigan State team last year did not show us anything too good.
Yeah, nothing redeeming.
I like the under here very
Same,
easily.
same. I'm gonna. My algorithm disagrees. They say they're gonna win six, but this my algorithm does not take into account schedule. So I think the schedule is
It's
too tough.
basically like talent, right?
They recruit fine, and their returning production is solid. It's at 68%, but their schedule is too crazy, and I was not encouraged at all by them last year. So I'm gonna agree under. All right. Next team. We have Purdue at 5.5.
Purdue, the latest
The
Big Ten West champions. I am not high on Purdue. I think
Neither is Vegas.
neither is Vegas. I'm pretty sure they lose a lot of talent. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, I'll check right now. Their non-con is tough. Like, I mean,
Tough.
it's not crazy, but it's tough.
Look at their first like take a look at everything prior to the bye week before you tell me their their talent retention.
Sure.
I have Virginia
They're well,
Tech.
I mean,
I have
yeah,
Virginia
yeah.
Tech. They play Syracuse, Wisconsin, Illinois. So three in a row that are home, but then Iowa and then Ohio State. And then their bye week. And then they get, you know, all their away games. Like pretty much like three of the next five games are away.
Yeah,
So
their schedule is kind of
it's a tough schedule. And
kind of sticky.
how's their retention of
So
talent?
they return 65%, which is okay. It's fine. Their recruiting is okay for a Big Ten West school. So they're pretty middle of the road for both of those. Their schedule, though, is
That schedule's
kind
tough.
of tough.
And like I don't think they'll have the same success as last year. They like I'm gonna take a look at their schedule last year. They ended up going 8-6. Wow, that's an interesting record, by the way.
Yeah.
8-6. That's such a Big Ten West record, by the way. They had a 4-point loss to Penn State, but that was before Penn State was Penn State. That was in the beginning. Then they lose by three to Syracuse. And then but then the next week they beat FAU by 2 points in Indiana.
Weird team.
This
Weird
is a
team.
weird team. They beat Nebraska by 6. Okay, fine. They beat Northwestern by 8. And then they got smoked by LSU. I don't even know why they scheduled them in the bowl game. That was ridiculous. I don't think this is a really good Indiana team.
I
Like,
mean, Purdue.
sorry, Purdue team.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree. I agree. I'm gonna go under.
I'm gonna go under, hard,
Yeah, yeah.
super
They're
under.
just
Sorry, Drew Brees, your first year at Purdue. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just their schedule's weird and they're just not that good enough. They're just not that good.
Who-
Next team on the list. So we only have a few left. The next one would be, let me make sure, would be Rutgers at
Oh
4.
God,
Yeah. I mean, they're not all the way at the bottom, so that's good for Rutgers, but they're still at 4.
Rutgers. Who I have you ever met a Rutgers fan, even on Twitter?
I actually have in
You've
person.
interacted with one?
Yeah, but he went to my high school and I think his mom went there or something. So he had like a Rutgers sweater on, and I was like, okay, cool.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
so
returning production is pretty good. It's 72%.
but
And
it's returning production of a poor team.
oh wait, my 73%. Yeah. Huh?
It's returning production of a really poor team, anyways.
Right, right. But it
This
doesn't
is a
hurt to have continuity.
it doesn't. This is the team that went 1-8 in the Big Ten. Who? Oh, the only team that they beat was by a touchdown. Indiana at home in New Jersey.
Jeez.
They pretty much got smoked by everyone else. I mean, not really smoked, but they did lose to basically everyone else. And then they had a 1 point win against Boston College. So Rutgers, yeah, they do have a lot of returning production. I just don't know what I make of that. And they get they have the Big Ten East. The good thing is that you said it was only four, right?
Yeah, 4. I don't
Well,
like it.
I
I
don't
don't
like
like
it
4.
either.
I'm gonna go under. My algorithm says exactly 4. My algorithm doesn't know they play Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And just for kicks, they play at Wisconsin from the West. They play Virginia Tech, which isn't great, which isn't an amazing team, but I think Virginia Tech is just better.
Honestly, you want
I
to hear a
think I
hot
think they're
take?
screwed. I don't think they're gonna get to 4. Sure.
I'll take the over.
I mean, I
North
can see it. There's definitely a path.
Northwestern, they could win Northwestern. They could win Temple.
Yeah.
They could
Yeah.
win Wagner.
Yes.
They could win Indiana. That's four. And then they
Yeah.
could even
Sure.
win Virginia Tech.
Okay. That's 5. That gets you to your 5. I'm not super confident in either Virginia Tech or Indiana.
I'm not, but
But I can definitely see it. Okay, that's cool.
it's a tough like
Oh.
it's not really a tough one. It's just like whether I want to be hopeful. Like if if
Yeah.
if the returning production, like yeah, the returning production is really high. So it leads me to believe that maybe they'll be okay, but they suck. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like if this is gonna be the same team as last year, then you know I was saying the over, and I don't hate it after seeing the schedule. Like there's some cupcake teams there,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
but let's go the under. I mean, it's Rutgers, you know. Bama, you go the over. Rutgers, you go the under. It's a simple math.
Of course. So moving on, the next team is Indiana at three and
Okay,
a half.
they played an interesting game last year to start the season out. I'm gonna look at their schedule right now to so I can remember it. The 2022 schedule.
Mhm.
Who did they play that was actually kind of interesting? Oh, I remember. The Illinois Indiana game was actually really interesting week
Oh
one.
yeah, they actually won.
And they actually won that game. Started off, I can't believe I'm looking at this. Dude, they beat Michigan State at Michigan State in double overtime.
That's so awesome.
That's what makes college football that amazing. So that's what makes it so
Yeah.
awesome. So they
Literally, because you
play
just don't know. You never know. You never know.
so they play Larry Bird's Indiana State Sycamores. They play Akron Zips,
The Fighting Larry Birds.
the Fighting. Okay, so they play Indiana State Sycamores, Larry Bird's team, and the Akron Zips, LeBron James's team.
Oh,
No, but yeah, this is you said four or three and a half.
3.5. 3.5 for
So they
Indiana.
just have to win four games.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see 4.
I think they lose to Louisville. I think they lose to Ohio State. I think they lose to Maryland. I think they lose to Michigan. I think they could beat Rutgers. They lose to Penn State. They lose to Wisconsin. It's up to
Illinois gets
Illinois.
revenge.
It's up to Illinois, Michigan State, Purdue, and then Indiana State and Akron. They have to win two of okay. So let me put it to you very simply. They
Hmm.
have to win two of these three. Ready?
Sure.
At Illinois, at Purdue, and Michigan State. Two out of those three. Do I see that? No.
Nope.
I'm going
No,
the under.
yeah, I agree.
They might
I
win
agree.
one of those games, maybe. Damn,
Maybe.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana. Stick to
S-
basketball.
Stick to basketball, even though UM did bounce them from the tournament.
They did. That was a really good game. That was an interesting one. I enjoyed I
Uh,
actually enjoyed watching win that game. It was kind of fun.
nice.
Next year, Indiana plays FIU. You know,
Oh.
the
Oh, wait, dude. The only game I've ever seen at FIU that I went to, they were playing Indiana.
no
It was
way.
crazy. Yeah, and it was like a few years ago. I think it was 2018 or
Did
something
did
like
you go
that.
with your girlfriend?
Yes, yes.
Indiana.
They were
Dude,
playing Indiana.
the only game I've seen from FIU, like in that stadium, I think it's called Ricardo Silva,
Yeah.
is versus FAU rivalry game. Ooh,
Ooh, was it good?
it was good for like an hour or something like that. Like FIU, like it was hype, in the beginning for like a little bit, and then FAU just smoked them. It wasn't
Damn.
really that fun to watch. But but yeah, so that there goes the Big Ten. Um, right off the bat, do you
No,
think
no, wait. Wait, wait, wait. There's
Indiana
one
doesn't have the
more.
lowest total?
No, there's one even lower.
Three.
There's one at 3. And you're gonna
Ooh.
know right when I say this. Hazing.
Oh man, Northwestern. Wow.
The
Irish
hazers,
champions, Irish champions.
of course. They're the
Dude,
only college football team that hazes in the whole country.
the only one that got caught for it.
I don't know. I don't think that the guy deserved to get fired because like literally every locker room in the country. I mean, even like if you play high school sports, like any sport, they mess with the freshmen the most, like
Yeah.
they make the younger kids do goofy stuff.
And another
Like that
thing,
just happens everywhere. Like I
I
don't
don't
understand.
like how they kept everyone on the coaching staff and then they just fired the coach. I'm pretty sure they
Right,
kept
it
the
makes
people
no sense.
like all those people definitely like knew. They definitely knew. Like if you're gonna fire
Right,
everyone, fire everyone. But don't just fire the coach and then leave all these. Dude, I'm pretty sure that the staff knew more than the fucking coach.
right, right. But they're gonna, you know, they're gonna f- they're gonna suffer. They're gonna suffer for it, and that's why their win total is at 3. Because without a head coach, 2 months before the season, you're not gonna really have like normal practices. All the
And
players are gonna
and their
not
players
really
are
care.
transferring out right now.
Yeah,
Like their
exactly.
commits and stuff like that.
They this team, Northwestern and Stanford, I think are going to be the worst Power Five teams by far. They're going to have like one win maybe. So you already know where I'm heading. I'm
You
going under.
you really think these two teams are going to be worse than Colorado?
I
I
think
mean, I mean,
Colorado
no.
has
I mean,
a
no. You're
little bit
kind of
of
right because they have Deion Sanders and they have
yeah,
like
they have a little bit of like
talent.
spiciness.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's Deion Sanders versus a team with no head coach. I mean,
And
yeah,
check out their non-con Northwesterns. They play UTEP. I think they can lose. And then they go to Duke, which I
they
definitely think they'll
they
lose.
will lose, and then Howard.
The only team they could actually beat on this schedule, in my humble opinion, is the Howard Bison.
Howard.
So they like even worse, like they have to go to Rutgers, an easy team. They have to go play on the road. Like, dude,
And yeah,
this is awful. This is awful for them.
if you do not want to dodge Northwestern, that's a free win. Congratulations to the Duke Blue Devils. You're getting a non-con win.
Right. Exactly. So I'm guessing you're going under also.
I'll go under also. I kind of forgot they had no head coach for a second. I I
They don't have
remember
a coach,
they
and
don't
the
even have
game
a
the season
coach.
starts in 3 weeks.
They don't even have a coach. How do you not have a coach? Like, go get one from Ireland. I can't, dude. I can't believe Northwestern. Like, dude, the debacle that was last season for Nebraska to go.
Oh my
The
God.
whole country was watching that game. They go to Ireland, they lose to Northwestern, a
A
team
whole
that they
two countries were watching that game.
did. Yeah, two countries were watching that game. Two first world countries were watching that game. And they go to Ireland. They lose to Northwestern, a shit team, a team that they spanked the year prior in the States.
In
Like
this country.
in this country. But man, that yeah. So with that, we finish off the Big Ten.
Yep.
W-
Finish
One more
off the
thing
big.
before we like wrap it up.
Sure.
Do you, give me your likelihood percentage wise for each of the power players of this conference to actually make the playoffs or
Okay.
to win the Big Ten, or it's not mutually exclusive. Either
Yeah,
or could
sure.
happen.
Sure.
So whichever one.
So I think the only teams that could actually win the Big Ten are in the East.
Of
So what it
course.
doesn't matter who comes out of the West. So whatever. And there's only three real contenders for the Big Ten and for the playoff,
Hmm.
which is gonna be the big three. It's gonna be Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State.
Hmm.
They're all super talented. They're all, have some consistency at their head coach position. They all have a ton of upside and they all have a ton of, like optimism heading into this season. So, with that being said, I think Michigan by far has the highest percentage to go to the playoff. I think they have unfinished business and I think they're on a mission, on a freaking mission.
I think they're
I
on a
would
mission
give
too.
them, I don't want to be too crazy, but I would give them like a 60% chance of making the
Hmm.
playoff just because you never really know. And to go 11-1 or better is still really hard. So I would give them
Hmm.
a 60% chance. Ohio State, I would slot them in next. I would give them like a 40% chance because they do have to go through Michigan. And I think Michigan is just better.
And then are you giving
And I don't think
you saying like
and I don't
Penn
think like Ohio State can realistically lose twice. And then Penn State, I'm gonna give them like a 15 15% chance to make it because they have to go through Ohio State and Michigan. And I think Michigan is too good. So for Penn State to make it, I think Michigan would have to be like the scenario of last year that Ohio State and Michigan both made it, but instead it would be Michigan and Penn State. I
Mhm.
think that scenario would have to play out. So I think that's just super unlikely.
What
How about you?
I think I kind of agree. I I think I I think it's gonna be kind of radical to say, but I don't think Ohio State. I think Penn State. I can only see Michigan or Penn State going to the playoffs or,
Really?
or or
Wow.
winning the Big Ten. Not saying Ohio State can't. Like Ohio State probably can, but I think like with the returning of production and the continuity and like losing CJ Stroud, like that's not like I know like they always have a good quarterback. I get it. But that was a really, 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 really good one. And even he couldn't even beat Michigan. He never beat
Right.
Michigan. Think about it like that. That guy never beat Michigan. That guy never was a Big Ten champion. And that guy was really good. You know
And
what I
this is
mean?
Michigan's best year, best team so far.
Yeah. So good luck to the next guy. I mean, enjoy it. But I also think, looking at the reports from last season, I mean, from earlier, like this summer, people were saying that, oh, like Michigan added a beat Georgia part of the practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's kind of cringe and kind of dumb, but at the end of the day, you know, being goal oriented is good. And obviously there's only been one team that's winning it, it's Georgia. So if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best, and they're pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs. Their schedule is cake. So they have to beat Georgia one way, either the first round or the second round. And if you think about it, if I don't know if you remember, but I think a couple of years ago they had a beat Ohio State practice.
Right, right. Yeah. No,
And what
I
happened?
definitely remember that.
And they beat
And they
Ohio
actually
State.
did it.
They
Yeah.
actually did
They
it
actually did it.
twice. And they're probably gonna do it a third time right now. So, anything can happen. I think that team's on a mission, and Michigan rules the Big Ten again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
20s of the Big Ten will belong to Michigan, even with USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and everyone else joining the Big Ten as well.
Right, of course. They're the Kings right now, and I think they're going to be there for a while. But yeah,
Alrighty then. Send us
all
off,
right, man.
Richie.
No, it was a good episode. Thanks for everybody for joining and watching, and we'll continue with this segment with the SEC for our next episode, and then the following one will be the ACC. We'll end with the ACC because that's our specialty.
Our specialty for only a few more years.
So so we'll do that, and then we'll probably have like one little mini episode or a couple of side episodes before the season, just discussing like random topics that aren't win totals.
Hmm.
Other than that, you know, we'll catch you guys next time, and thanks for listening.
Peace
Peace,
out,
Eddie.
Richie. Good night, guys.